Deep in the forest, there was a dragon and her egg living in a cave, and one day, the dragon decided to go out and hunt for some food for her kid to eat when it hatches. But she forgot that these were ranked lobbies, and the second she flew out into the open, she got sniped by a group of humans who had been hunting in the area. This leaves her base and egg completely undefended. And before long, a pregnant magic cat happened to come across the abandoned base and decided to claim the territory for herself. She then gave birth to her children right there in the cave, but as she was caring for her children, the abandoned egg also happened to hatch at the same time, and since the first thing it saw was the cat, it assumed she must be his mother. The cat obviously knew that this ugly-ass baby couldn't be one of her kids, but she felt bad for him, and she thought it would be quite interesting to try raising a kid of a different species. So she decided to take the baby dragon in and told her kittens that, from now on, they had a new little brother. Later on, the mother cat decided to take her kids out with her while she went hunting, so they could learn how it was done, and while prowling around in the grass, they came across a group of unsuspecting mice in the middle of eating some berries, so the mother cat got into position and pounced on the mice, taking out a whole bunch of them at once. After the hunting lesson, she also decided to teach her kittens how to use their lightning magic with their tails, and the kittens all grasped the lesson fairly quickly. But when the dragon tried to do the same with his own tail, nothing happened. He looked really upset about not being able to use magic, so the mother cat and the others all decided to work together to figure out what kind of magic the dragon could use. After some trial and error, they discovered that the dragon was able to use his wings to fly, and he could breathe fire from his mouth, although he would still need to practice it a bit more before he got the hang of it. Just then, the cat sensed something approaching, so she told all her kids to stay quiet and hide in the bushes. A moment later, a group of humans walked by, and thankfully, they didn't notice them. But the kids were all a bit confused as to why their mom was so scared of those people, because they'd never seen animals like them before. Their mother explained to them that those things were humans, and they were one of the most terrifying species around because some were very kind, while others achieved new depths of cruelty with each passing day, and there was no way to know how they would react if they spotted them since cat sis like them were seen as a valuable resource by humans. The kids all realized that humans really were dangerous, so they started trying to memorize the scent of humans so they could avoid them at all costs in the future. And seeing how serious her kids were, the mother cat was sure they would be able to handle themselves when the day finally came for them to go out on their own and explore the world. Everything had been going well for the cat family, but a few days later, while they were out on a hunt, a magic circle suddenly appeared beneath the mother's feet. The kids were all confused and asked her what was going on in a panic because she was starting to disappear. But the mother realized there was no stopping this because it was a summoning circle from one of the humans. Whenever someone tried to summon a familiar for themselves, the spell yoinked a random animal out in the wild, and it just so happened that the mother cat was chosen this time. So before she got teleported away, she gave her kids one final lesson. She had already taught them all they needed to know about hunting, so if they ever got into trouble, she wanted them to look out for each other and work together whenever necessary to survive. After that, the mother got teleported away, and the kids were left on their own to fend for themselves. As time went on, the older cats all left the nest, leaving the dragon as the only one still living in that cave. He had grown accustomed to the ways of survival, but with his siblings gone, he couldn't help but feel lonely because there was no one for him to spend time with. A lot of time passed like this, with him staying there by himself until one day, his older sister returned to the cave because she was pregnant and looking for a safe place to raise her kids. The dragon happily acted as a fun uncle towards his nephews and nieces, teaching them everything his mother had taught him, including the rules of hunting and the fact that they should never go near humans. Before he knew it, those kittens had grown up as well and left the nest to go start families of their own. It was a happy moment for him to see the kids grow up and become able to take care of themselves, but he'd be lying if he said he didn't feel sad about being left all alone yet again. Because a dragon's lifespan is so much longer than a cat's, the dragon realized he would probably outlive all his siblings, and the thought made him a little depressed. But before he knew it, another cat he had never seen before showed up, and as she approached, the dragon realized that she smelled similar to one of his brothers. The cat introduced herself and told the dragon that she was currently pregnant, and she was hoping he would allow her to give birth in his cave since her father once told her that his brother was a cat with wings, and that if she was ever looking for a safe place, she could always come here. And hearing that his brother thought so highly of him brought tears of joy to the dragon's eyes. Over the years, the dragon continued to grow in size and power, having gained access to advanced magic, and now he was capable of talking to the spirits that naturally existed in the forest. One day, while talking to one of the spirits, the dragon casually mentioned that he was a cat with wings, and the spirit had no idea what he was talking about. So it explained to him that he wasn't a cat at all. And that came as a huge shock to the dragon since his mom never got the chance to explain that to him before she was summoned away. He went back to his cave to inform his nieces and nephews that he was not actually a cat like he thought he was, but they did not care in the slightest because they had already guessed as much since the dragon was like 20 times their size already. They asked him if he could just keep teaching them magic because they'd been having a lot of fun with it, and the dragon said he'd be happy to. All was well for some more time after that, but one day, while the dragon was flying home, he suddenly spotted a group of humans with a bunch of cat corpses piled up next to them. And the second he realized that some of those cats were his family members, he became enraged and charged at the humans, burning them to ash in an instant with his flames. He didn't understand why the humans would kill so many cats at once if they were just hunting for food, but the spirits informed him that the humans never intended to eat these cats. They were simply killing them so they could skin their bodies for their fur and sell it later. The dragon was enraged after he learned of this because if the humans had been hunting for food, he could have forgiven this as just part of the circle of life because all living beings need to eat somehow. But killing cats simply for fashion was absolutely unacceptable, so he immediately flew over to the town those hunters came from and stood on top of their gate, announcing that he was the guardian of all the magic cats who lived in the forest, and the hunters who went out that morning to hunt cats had all been burnt to a crisp by him. He also warned that if any of them ever went into the forest to kill cats again, then he would reduce the entire city to ash. The humans were all terrified, and the local knights all raised their lightning staves to launch blasts at the dragon in an attempt to take him down, but despite their best efforts, none of their attacks so much as left a scratch on the dragon, and in fact, the only thing they managed to do was piss the dragon off even more than before. So in retaliation, the dragon proceeded to burn a section of the city, along with all the soldiers who had raised their weapons against him. He was originally planning to leave the city alone after warning them, but the fact that they attacked him just now was making him consider just annihilating them altogether. However, as he was looking down at the city streets, he spotted a little girl crying amidst the flames, and honestly, he didn't give a damn about her because, in his mind, all humans were nothing but scum. But then he noticed the girl's pet cat come out from behind her, and he saw the cat trying to protect the girl, which reminded him of what his mom had told him back then. There may be cruel humans, but there were also kind ones, and the dragon realized that it wouldn't be fair to destroy all the kind humans because of the actions of the cruel humans. He flies into the air and tells the humans that he is giving them one final warning. He tells them that he does not want to see any humans killing cats in the forest unless it is for food or in self-defense. Anything other than that will incur his wrath, and after leaving them with that warning, he returns to the forest. Many years go by without incident after that, and the humans adjust to the new rules to avoid trouble with the dragon. One night in particular, after the prince of the human kingdom had been tucked into bed, he sneaks out of his room in the dead of night because he wants to practice his magic while no one else is around. The prince had been born with naturally weak magic, so if he wants to inherit the throne and live up to his father's expectations, then he needs to work extra hard to prove himself. However, when he tries to cast a fire spell to burn up a leaf, absolutely nothing happens because he really does suck at magic. He keeps trying over and over, and eventually, a cat happens to wander up next to him, and seeing it cheers the prince up a little. So he decides to keep trying, and this time, he actually manages to set the leaf on fire. He is really excited about his progress and thanks the cat for cheering him on. But then he realizes that this is one of the cats from the forest, and during his lessons, he was warned that if a magic cat were to ever wander into the city, no one from the city was allowed to harm or kill it because if they did, then the imperial dragon would return and burn the entire city to the ground. Remembering that makes the prince a lot more cautious. So he asks the cat if it came from the forest, and after the cat confirms it, he asks if it would like him to lead it back, but the cat says it knows how to get back on its own, and it turns around to leave, so the prince assumes it should be fine. However, the next day, the cat ends up returning to the palace to meet the prince and help him practice, and since the cat is so friendly, he and the prince soon become friends and meet every night to train and talk. It doesn't take long for the king to find out about this, and at first, he is extremely concerned because he is worried the dragon might misunderstand and assume they are forcing the cat to stay here and come to burn the city down. But then again, back when the dragon first appeared, it was reasonable enough to give them 2 warnings, so the king is sure it will all work out as long as they explain things properly. Not long after, the dragon flies into the city, and it causes a huge panic in town, because the people assume it must be here to burn them to ash, but the dragon is simply looking for one of his kittens that hasn't returned to the forest for the last few days. A little while later, the cat comes out, and the dragon demands to know why it hasn't come home in so long. So the cat explains that it became friends with a kid who lives here, and he wants to stay and teach the kid magic because he sucks at it. The dragon reminds the cat that he had warned him that humans were dangerous and to stay away from them. But the cat retorts that his friend isn't dangerous. And when the prince actually shows up, the dragon can see for himself that the kid doesn't have a dangerous bone in his body, so he says he's fine with the cat staying to teach him. However, since the kid is the prince of this kingdom, it's only right that he asks for permission from the king before letting one of his cats stay in the kingdom permanently. So the dragon uses transformation magic to turn himself into a smaller cat form, so he won't cause as much of a panic and starts walking towards the castle. Once he enters the main hall, the king greets him as an honored guest, and he obviously has no objections to one of the dragon's cats staying in the kingdom. But he asks if the dragon is really okay with this since he was the one who taught the cats magic, and the magic they use can be considered a secret art. The dragon says it's fine since it's just a bunch of stuff he learned from talking to the spirits anyway, so it's not a secret. But the dragon is the only one capable of speaking to the spirits around here in the first place, so that's the kind of knowledge no one else would be able to acquire. Still, since the dragon has no objections, it is decided that the cat can stay and teach the prince for as long as he wants, and from then on, whenever a royal was born, a cat from the forest would visit the kingdom, and if they befriended a prince or princess, they teach them magic and stay by their side, so the relationship between the humans, the cats, and the dragon remained in perfect balance. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.